All right, guys, we are doing section 2 today, the challenges of urbanization. And the main idea is this to explain how the rapid growth of cities forced people to contend with problems of housing, transportation, water, and sanitation. So we're going to read about how they got through all these different problems. So the first section you're going to read about this one person's story. And then we're going to talk about urban opportunities. So the technological boom in the 19th century contributed to the growing industrial strength of the United States. The result was rapid urbanization, or growth of cities, most of the regions of the Northeast and Midwest. So immigrants settle in cities. Most of the immigrants who streamed into the United States in the late 19th century became city dwellers because cities were the cheapest and most convenient places to live. Cities offered unskilled laborers steady jobs in mills and factories. By 1890, there was twice as many Irish residents in New York City as in Dublin, Ireland. By 1910, immigrant families made up more than half the total population of 18 major cities. And you can see here, you have the Bronx, Queens, Manhattan, and Brooklyn down here. So you can see German, the orange, so they're all German. We have Russian, it's this purplish, pinkish, fuchsia color. And Irish is all this green, so Irish. So you can see all the places they settled. So I want you to continue reading this section. Then we're going to talk about different problems. So as the urban population skyrocketed, cities, governments faced the problem of how to provide residents with the needed services and safe living conditions. So housing was a big problem. When the industrial age began, working class families in cities had two housing options. They could either buy a house on the outskirts of town where they would be faced transportation problems or a rent-cramped room in a boarding house. So you had to buy a house outside and worry about transporting, getting yourself to and from the city, or you can rent rooms. It's called a boarding house. As the urban population increased, however, new types of housing were designed. There was too many people coming in. They needed different ways. So as the urban population increased, however, new types of housing were designed. For example, row housing, single-family dwelling that shared sidewalls with each other, similar houses, packed many single-family residents onto a single block. So you see kind of like townhouses you see today, they're all attached, but they're not as big. They weren't as large. After working class families left the central city, immigrants often took over their old housing, sometimes with 2 or 3 families occupying a one-family residence. As Jacob Riis pointed out, that's the family you have to read about before, these multifamily urban dwellings called tenements were overcrowded and unsanitary. So these places, they had like a tenement building, all these different, housing, apartment buildings, they took over, but they were so crowded, it was dirty, they weren't clean. So this was a problem. So in 1879, to improve such slum conditions, New York City passed a law that set minimum requirements for plumbing and ventilation in apartments. Landlords began building tenements with air shafts that provided an outside window for each room. Since garbage was picked up infrequently, people sometimes dumped it into the air shafts, which attracted vermin. Vermin is like rats. Think about it, all this garbage going into the air shafts, the air vents. It's going to attract mice, cockroaches, rats, all different little animals. So to keep the stench out, residents nailed windows shut. Though established with good intent, the new tenements soon became even worse places to live. So disgusting. So housing was a problem, transportation. So they had to come up with different ways for mass transit. If people are living outside the city, they need to get in. So they came up with streetcars. They were introduced in San Francisco, and electric subways in Boston. That was the early mass transit. Like we have trains now. That's what they were doing back then. Next was water. So cities also faced the problem of supplying safe drinking water. So as the population grew, cities like New York, Cleveland, they built waterways, public waterways, to handle increasing demand. Okay, so you're going to finish reading this section. The next problem was sanitation. As the cities grew, so did the challenge of keeping them clean. Horse manure piled up on the streets. People are riding their horse, right? They're using them for farms, travel. It's going to build up. People weren't cleaning it up. Sewage was overflowing from the gutters and factories, stuff just all over. Okay, crime was up, of course, right? As population increases, pickpocketers, thieves, they were doing great. So the police force had to have full-time police, salary goes up. So next was fire. Limited water supply in the many cities contributed to another menace, the spread of fires. So if there's not enough water to put it out, the fire spreads quickly. And it's usually it wasn't a lot of people to help out as well. Okay, so you can see right here in this picture, this graphic, the Great Chicago Fire, October 8th through 10th. So it lasted a couple days in 1871. The fire burned down over 24 hours. An estimated 300 people died. 100,000 were left homeless. More than 3 square miles of the city center was destroyed. Property's loss was estimated at $200 million. And 17,500 apartments were destroyed. Now this is from the San Francisco earthquake in April 18th, 1906. Oh, the anniversary. The quake lasted 28 seconds. Fire burned for 4 days. An estimated 1,000 people died. So more people died in this one. Over 200,000 were left homeless. More. Fire swept through 5 square miles, more square miles of the city. Property loss is estimated at $500 million, not 200. And 28,000 buildings were destroyed. So I want you to continue reading this page. And at the end, I want you to do number 1, number 3, and number 4. Do not worry about number 2. Okay.